You're listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 176. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where I show you how life with less alcohol is more fun than you think. I work with high achievers who struggle to drink a glass of wine without it turning into 2 bottles. I'm the one they call when they want to take it or leave it. So if you want to change your relationship with alcohol that doesn't involve counting days sober, you're in the right place. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Now today's episode is for you if you have ever found yourself pouring a glass of wine at the end of a long day and telling yourself, this is just how I relax, or I deserve this, or I can't wait to put my feet up with my glass of wine. And frankly, this is a lot of my one-on-one clients. This is an incredibly prevalent view, and it is one that is also supported and fostered by the alcohol industry, right? This is one of the ways that we are taught and shown on TV and in advertising as to how alcohol helps us, right? And we have a lot of experience about this and we believe it. But I want you to ask, are you asking whether this really does help you, right? Are you wondering that? Or is it actually making things worse? Is that nightly glass 2, 3, 4 of wine making things worse? And if you are wondering this, I do want you to know you are not alone. You are so not alone. This is, as I said, one of the top things, if not the number one thing I hear from so many of the clients I work with, especially those women who are out there really knocking it out of the park. I think that's the right expression, right? That we knock it out of the park in our day-to-day lives. People who are doing incredible things. Right? You've got a job, you've got a family, the home, looking after a packed calendar. People who show up for everyone. But then there is this one thing in their life. I hear this again so often, that my life is fantastic. There's just this one thing, right? This nightly glass or 2 or 3 of wine that's become part of my routine. And when you start to notice this is kind of like a baked in part of the pattern, that's when it starts to not feel quite so harmless anymore, right? When it starts to feel needed, not optional. So today I want to talk about what it means to unwind without wine, and why unwinding with wine is such a common struggle, and why it matters so much to really take a look at this, even if you are quote unquote functioning. And I do not go in, as you know, for labels. I'm not talking about being a functioning alcoholic here. You will not hear those words from me in terms of me saying that's what this is. No, I'm talking about if you have your life together, everything is great, alcohol isn't having this huge blight on your life, and yet you have this nightly glass of wine that you feel is not quite so harmless anymore. So that's what we're going to talk about, why this matters so much to look at this. And also, even if no one else knows that this is an issue that you have, that you think you drink a bit too much, right? If you're the only one who's really thinking about this. And don't worry, we're not diving into how to stop or what to do just yet. This is about, firstly, understanding the bigger picture and why this one shift, by just re-looking at this, can open the door to a whole new level of peace and presence in your life. Oh, and by the way, if this conversation is resonating with you, I've got something that will really help. It's called the Ultimate Wine-Free Wind Down Kit. It's new. I'm putting it out on the market at a special low introductory price. I'm not sure for how long, probably for the next week. After that, I'm going to whop the price back up. So I'm going to tell you about this more in the episode. But if you're curious, you can grab the link now in the show notes for it. All right, so back to this whole concept of unwinding with wine and wanting to unwind without wine. Let's first talk about why this is so-called a big deal. Let's start there, right? This is because when we have that glass of wine on a Monday evening, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, when we get home from work, we're not drinking to party. I want you to think about this. We're actually drinking to pause. It's an opportunity to really pause, to slow down, to breathe, to slow your brain down. People tell me they want to turn their mind off, right? It's an opportunity. It's kind of like the segue. We use it as the time to shift out of work mode or out of parent mode or out of go, go, go mode into something softer, into something more gentle, even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just for the time it takes us to, drink that glass down. Look, I get it. Absolutely get it. This was one of my big patterns, the 6 p.m. glass of wine. I often talk about the story where when I came home from work this one day and I was going to cook the dinner, and I actually quite like cooking the dinner. For me, it's relaxing. It's not a chore. And as I was there in my kitchen looking at all the ingredients laid out on the kitchen surface, right there by the onions was a full glass of white wine. A glass which I had poured without even consciously being aware I had poured it. I was so convinced that there was someone else in the house. I actually checked with my husband. He wasn't there. So I had done this on default as getting the onions, and I forget what else, but I do remember the onions and the wine. It was kind of packed in as part of my unwinding, because I kind of like to unwind with cooking, right? So I get this. And then what happens is when wine starts feeling just part of the evening package, it's kind of like part of the slowing down, part of the reward, something you deserve at the end of a day. That's when we want to start looking at it, because to start with, right, we might think it works, right? We know that we have that first glass of wine. It does make us feel buzzed and all the rest of it, until it doesn't, right? Because then we're kind of always chasing that feeling from that first glass, right? And then this is what starts to happen, is then you start to wake up feeling more groggy more often, or you start to notice that your sleep is getting more and more restless, or you're snapping more quickly at the people you love, or you are starting maybe even to look forward to that glass of wine earlier and earlier in the day. I mean, you still won't allow yourself, you wouldn't dream of drinking at 3 or 4 p.m., but when you get home, that's going to be kind of like the beeline thing you go for, right? And this is where you catch yourself saying, oh, why did I do that again? After you promised yourself you'd have just one, or maybe you promised yourself you're going to go alcohol free for a change. It's Monday night, right? Why am I drinking? So this isn't about rock bottom. This is about being stuck in a cycle that no longer feels good and wanting something better. Because really the truth is, wine does not really reduce your stress. It just numbs you to it. For a while, the stress is still there. But even when the effects of the wine wear off, as I say, the stress is still there. Plus, you've kind of amplified it, because now we're looking back and we have all the regret, the tiredness, maybe some shame, and just frankly, why did I do that again, right? We now have a kind of a drinking pattern that isn't serving us, that's part and part. This sort of kind of gets meshed up with all the stress, and then we start to see, but I have all this stress, and then I have the drink, and the drink helps me to unstress, but then the drink adds to the stress. What is going on? We kind of get into this confused cycle. It's a bit like on one of those cartoons, the Tom and Jerry cartoons, when one of the characters is spinning round and round and round. It feels a bit like that. Now, this, my friend, is not peace. This is postponing peace. This is pushing off peace, right? Even though we tell ourselves that wine is going to help us with the unwinding, it actually really doesn't. Now, why it matters to take back control, I want to tackle that next, because when you learn how to unwind without wine, you are not just breaking a habit. I like to think of this as you are reclaiming your power, and you're creating a new habit, right? You'll get into a new habit pattern that serves you. You'll be learning the skill, for it is a skill, I talk about this a lot on the podcast, of unwinding without the wine. This is not simply a case of put the wine down, grit your teeth through it, get through the cravings, go to bed early, right? All those things, get rid of all the alcohol. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. But when we are able to learn how to unwind without wine, that does become a new skill that we can then use. I want you to imagine that your evenings actually restore you. I want you to imagine that sleep actually feels deep and healing. I want you to imagine you have an evening where there's no more mental tug of war. Should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? Right? Am I going to have the wine or not? Am I going to have the wine or not? I want you to imagine being able to pour yourself a wind down ritual that gives you the same relief without the consequences. A wind down ritual that makes you feel proud, not guilty. That kind of peace, that kind of control, that kind of clarity, I would even say, it's going to spill over into everything else, right? It's way beyond that 20-minute period or so when you're just swapping out a glass of wine or two. We're not talking, it's not just about that period. This spills over, your mornings are sharper, your confidence grows, and you start to trust yourself again. This isn't about giving something up, it's about getting your life back. And again, as I say, again and again and again, there is no problem having a drink. But when we are having a drink to solve something in our lives, in this case, we're talking about the stress at the end of a long day, that's when we want to notice and do something about it, right? There is a big difference between enjoying yourself or relaxing or whatever state you're in and having a drink versus having a drink to create that feeling, right? That sensation of relaxation. So if you're listening to this and if you're nodding along, I want you to know first that you are not alone. Second, that this is not something that you are blighted with for the rest of your life. It's about getting curious and understanding, really understanding, having kind of a heart-to-heart with yourself as to what purpose the wine at the end of the day is serving. And backing yourself to learn a different way. And if that is you, I want to invite you to take a really simple, gentle next step, right? There's no shame involved in any of this. We're just backing ourselves. I've created something just for you called the Ultimate Wine-Free Wind Down Kit. It's packed with calming, science-backed tools to help you relax without relying on a glass of wine. Inside, you'll find things like a 5-minute step-by-step ritual that triggers the same feel-good chemicals as wine, but naturally. I've included a soothing 15-minute guided audio to melt away stress that you can listen to. You could make that just the new routine. Every evening, I'm just going to listen to the 15-minute ritual. Right? To start with, it will feel a bit jolting because I'm not used to this. After a while, it becomes the new habit. I have included some quick calming scripts that can help you understand and respond to your inner dialogue when cravings hit and respond in a more way that serves you more. I've included a simple tracker to help you build momentum over the next 7 days, and there's a couple of other things too. And there's more in that. It's like a little self-soothing toolbox for your evenings. You can grab it right now by the link in the show notes. And like I say, right now, if you're listening to this in April 2025, it's in at a special introductory low price, but that price will go up, I think, next week. So listen, this isn't about pressure. This is about support. I've put this out there because I know I'm not to serve everyone one-on-one, but I know this is such a pain point, right? This is such a thing. This is such an ingrained part of the habit. So I just want to give you something very specific you can use to tackle, even if it's just for you, it's just that 15-minute period, right? When you get in from work, between getting in, taking your coat off, and maybe getting the dinner on or looking after the children or something. There's going to be a period when we know we would normally have the wine. And this is when you should carve out that time and just do something a little bit different. You don't have to do everything in the kit. Just try one thing to start with. But what we're doing here is we're interrupting the habit and we're just starting to make some gentle change. It's your first small win, right? That's why you look at it, towards feeling calm, clear, and completely in control. You are in control. You always are in control. You just maybe have forgotten how. So here's what I want you to know as we close. You are not broken. You do not have a problem that only you have and no one else has. You do not have an unsolvable problem. You're just carrying a habit that isn't working for you anymore. That is all. And you have every right to want something better for yourself. You do not have to quit forever. You do not have to white knuckle it. But you do deserve to explore what it feels like to wind down with rituals that do actually serve you. Because when you stop using wine to switch off, you start switching on to a life that feels way more grounded, way more peaceful, and way more proud. So go ahead, check out the link in the show notes, grab your ultimate wine-free wind down kit. It's waiting for you. And if you are ready to go deeper, right, to really transform your relationship with alcohol and create lasting change, my one-on-one coaching program is that next step for you. This is the fast track to getting the relationship with alcohol that you want. You could listen to all of my podcasts and deploy everything I say, and you would get your result, but that would take you a way lot longer. If you want that result now, if you want that result in 2025, if you want to approach your summer vacation differently, if you want all of those things, it's on offer. My calendar is filling up. My schedule is getting more busy since more people are finding the podcast and since my book, The Off Switch, was published. But I do have some slots still. This is your time. This is your time to say yes. So if you want that, look for the link in the show notes to book a call, or go to 90dayslater.co and there is a book a call link there. It is a no strings attached discovery call where we'll just talk about where you are, where you want to be, and I will build for you the exact plan to get you there. And I'll do it on the call, so you will have no more confusion. All right, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, take good care of you. If you like what you're learning in the podcast and you want to take the work further and achieve total freedom around alcohol, let's talk. I help my clients stop reaching for that first 6 p.m. rolls around. Email me for more information on anna@90dayslater.co. And if you did enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a rating and review to help others find the 90 Days Later podcast.